Leafs get it out in center. To the line. Here's Plekanec. Scores! We're going to Boston, baby!
It's as good as
Ladies and gentlemen, Tom, this is a massive one for the boys. Born in Sudbury, Ontario, this person is the cornerstone of Canadian hockey broadcasting, being the voice of the Toronto Maple Leafs for 42 years. He's broadcasted over 3,000 Maple Leafs games, but got his start at the University of Windsor on their campus radio station. From then, he called play-by-play like his son for your Sudbury Wolves for 5 years, and then moved on to broadcast for the Nova Scotia Voyageurs of the American Hockey League and was their sports director. 1982 was the big break, calling his first game ever for the Leafs at Chicago Stadium, and since then, he has never looked back. It's an honor and a pleasure to please welcome Joe Bowen to the B2B podcast. How are we doing?
We're doing great, guys. Is it snowing up north yet?
Not yet, Joe.
Good.
But pretty
Good.
soon it's getting
Well,
colder.
Yeah, global warming is helping out people up there, so that's fine.
Yeah, there we go. Joe, before we get into it, I don't know if you remember taking us up to the press box last year, but we got a pretty funny story from that. So just before you came out and got us, David had messaged us during the game to go up and meet with you. But as we were going up there, security, after we got through the ropes, security was chasing after us, trying to kick us out. But you came in and said, guys, they're with us, and you took us up. But yeah, that was unreal.
That was a mistake. I should have had them kick you out of the building.
Joe, you should have seen the look on Alex's face. It was like the first time he's ever been in any sort of trouble. It was pretty good.
Oh, well, he was going to be behind the Crowbar Hotel there all night, probably. Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
Joe, first question I got for you is, like, we always like to go back with every guest we bring on. So how did you get into commentating, and how did it really all come about for you?
Well, instead of playing with a PlayStation, because they hadn't been invented yet, we had to go outdoors. And you went up the street, you knocked on somebody's door, and you said, "You want to come out and play?" It was just a unique thought. And we'd do this for about 5 or 10 guys, and we'd be playing ball hockey, right, on the street. And of course, someone had to do the play-by-play while you were playing. And so that's probably where I got a start. I was a goalie of little note, and my dream was to replace Johnny Bauer in the goal for the Toronto Maple Leafs and go on to a Hall of Fame career and everything else. And lack of ability and size probably had a great deal to do with it. And my hockey career kind of came to an end later in high school. And I toyed with the idea of going to Ryerson. It was a community college that had a radio and TV kind of a course. My dad had passed away before I went into high school, and his dream or wish was that I got a university degree. So I went to the University of Windsor because they had a communication arts BA program. And when I got down there, I got very much involved in the student radio station and really didn't do an awful lot of hockey. I did a lot of basketball. Our varsity basketball team in the 3 years that I was at university was one of the best in Canada. We went to the national final in 2 of those years, and I got to do a lot of their games. So that's where I kind of cut my teeth, learning what to do play-by-play wise, but it was basketball more than hockey. And then when I came back to Sudbury, I was able to get a job at CKSO radio and TV up there, mainly because my dad's best friend was Bill Plant, and Mr. Plant owned CKSO radio and TV, and he was very, very gracious to me. He got me a job during the summer before I went back to my final year of university. And literally when I came home after graduating, he had kept a job open in the promotion department for about a month. And I got the job. So I'm probably a great example of it's not what you know, it's who you know. And Mr. Plant was a very big part of me getting into Floyd broadcasting situation, which is a little different than what you guys are doing, right?
Just a tad, just a tad. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're in broadcasting, you're just not employed.
And then we're self-employed. That's right, Joe.
There you are. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. I actually want to take it back, Joel. You mentioned your hockey career a little bit, and we saw this in your bio. Let's take it back to 1967. We're read on your bio about this legendary Coppercliff Redmond Pee Wee Championship team. Is there anything you can share about that club?
Boy, that was a lot of fun. Bob Harkness was Harkins was our coach. We had a bunch of guys on that team that went on to play pro or become international players. Warren Anderson and Ivan McFarland both went to the University of Toronto and played for Tom Watt, who was a dear friend of mine. Ted Scarf went on to play for the Kitchener Rangers and then into the WHA and has been the president off and on for the Kitchener Rangers for many, many years, and a very large person in the community, real estate and everything down in Kitchener. So we had a great team, and it was really kind of put together because of my dad. My dad died in 1965, but we all went to the Jerry Topazzini Hockey School, which was the very first one that had ever been held in Sudbury. I've got a great story about that too that I'll get to. But my dad reasoned that most of us played outdoors, and the rinks wouldn't be ready after the August hockey camp, so he got 2 hours of ice time at Stanley Stadium in Coppercliff Sunday afternoons at 4:00. And he put together a really, really good team, notwithstanding his son who was stuck playing goal and there was no tryouts for that position. I just got it. So I'm the epitome of your dad getting you the spot. But we had a really good team. We played all of the junior high school teams and beat them. We played some of the senior high school teams when we were just like bantams and beating them. So a lot of those players from that team played on that Coppercliff Redmond team, and it was a real good hockey team. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's amazing. Good stuff. Good stuff. And moving on to the Wolves a little bit, what was the setup like for you? Were you up in the gondola like your son is now overseeing the ice, or where did they put you at the old barn?
No, that hasn't changed a bit since, as far as I can recall, and that's 1951. Well, I don't remember 51 because I was just born. But anyway, being in that building, that gondola has been there for as long as I've known. And you had to go up those stairs to get there. And when I was doing the Sudbury Wolves games, Eddie Shack's dad, Mr. Shack, would stand right by those stairs, and he would, when I came, he would go, "Oh, hi, Mr. Bowen. Have a good call tonight." I said, "Mr. Shack, my dad was Mr. Bowen. I'm just Joe." "Oh, no, 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 no." But he was the quietest, most gentle, and just unassuming gentleman, really polite, enormous hands like his son Eddie. My dad had delivered Eddie Shack. So I'm pretty sure that my dad dropped him a couple of times on his head to kind of find out why things kind of went squirrely for Eddie. But but his dad was complete polar opposite from the hockey player and the character that Eddie Shack became.
Oh, that's wow, that's wicked. And obviously the famous Wolf on the Wire, and we know it's been around forever in the Sudbury Arena. What's your take on it, Joe? And did you always like seeing the Wolf come out on the Wire?
I love it. It's unique. Look, I mean, the Sioux Greyhounds tried to emulate it. They had a cardboard cutout of a dog. I mean, please. I mean, I guess you couldn't put a real greyhound on a rope on the way out, but a wolf is, a predator, and they were being shot and whatnot. So every once in a while, we'd restuff a new one and, hook it up, and out it would come. I just think it's a very unique thing. And I don't know if a lot of animal activists are upset about it, but I think the farmer that probably shot the wolf for trying to steal his cattle or his pigs or his sheep or whatever could care less of where it ended up going. So anyway, the taxidermist thinks it's a hell of an idea, and I personally think it's a great idea.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, I love that. And believe too, the Wolves are still wearing green at the time. Do you like the green versus the blue jerseys for the Wolves?
I've always thought that Sudbury's colors were green and white. And that dates back way, way before me with Max Silverman and the teams that went overseas and the teams that played in the Eastern Professional Hockey League and the Allen Cup team all wore green and white. And I know that at one point they just decided to try and freshen things up. And sometimes it's just trying to get a new start. And the jerseys were changed, but I really do enjoy when they have a throwback night or something and go back to the green and white because that's the teams that I remember growing up.
There we go. We'll send this tape to the Wolves here and make sure we get that green jersey back.
There
at
you
least
go.
at least the alternate jersey. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Joe, what's the difference between calling a game on radio and on TV, and do you have a preference?
My bank manager likes TV. The difference is if you've cut your teeth on radio, it's easier because you do less. You literally do less. You don't have to describe where the puck is on the left wing or in the neutral zone or deep in the corner or behind the net or whatever, because people can see that. But if you do TV and then you come back and do radio and do the radio the way you're doing TV, people can't follow along. Usually because they aren't as descriptive. So it really literally is, you can do less and maybe add more color, information about what's going on, as opposed to when you're doing radio. I've always felt, and the way that I like to do it is I want the listener to be able to sit by the radio, know where the puck is, know who has it, know which team has it, which is even more important than the person who has it, and whether there's a scoring chance about to develop. And so that, I think, is, I guess that's old school. But I think if you're going to do a game on radio, I think people want to know, A, what the hell is the score? B, where we are in the game,
Right.
And who has the damn thing, and do we have a chance to score here? So I think that's the biggest difference. And I think that doing TV is easier, other than you've got to make sure your suit and tie look real nice and you're all dolled up. You get a little makeup on so you look younger.
And Joe, your first game with the Leafs at Chicago Stadium, like, how did you get that call, and what was it like calling your first game in the NHL?
Well, that is a story that'll go into the book. But I was doing the Nova Scotia Voyageur games in Halifax, and I had sent out tapes like everybody else who does broadcasting, trying to get a job with every team in the National Hockey League. I've kept scrapbooks. I have some really nice letters, including one from Cliff Fletcher, then with the Atlanta Flames, asking, saying he's going to keep my stuff on in a file. I'm pretty sure the file was the garbage, but anyway, he said he was going to keep it on file. But so a friend of mine, Alan Davis, I worked with at CHNS in Halifax. He was chasing a young lady's skirt, and she moved to Toronto, and Alan went after her and ended up marrying her, and they're happily married still and working in Buffalo. But he called me in April after the Nova Scotia Voyageur season was over and said that Ron Hewitt, who had done the Leaf games, no relation to Foster or Bill, but Ron Hewitt was moving into radio sales, and that there was a position open to do the Leaf games. So I said, well, I sent it in. I sent my resume and my tapes in, and then never heard anything. And in the summertime, read in the Globe and Mail that it seemed to be down to 3 guys from out west. And my wife and I decided we're going to buy a house in Halifax. So 22 points on the dollar. everybody's pissing and moaning about how high the interest rates are now. It's like 22 points on the dollar.
Yeah.
We buy a house in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, and my first son, Liam, is born in April, and we're all set to move into our house, hoping that the mortgage is going to be okay. And on the Wednesday, I got home and I got a phone call, and the bank manager said everything's all set. You can do the final stuff with the house and purchase the house. So we're very excited. And the next day, I come home from doing the morning show on the radio, and I come home and the phone rings, and it's a gentleman says, "Hi, this is Len Brampson. I'm with Telemedia Sports in Toronto. We've been listening to your audition, and we would like you to fly in to do the Edmonton Oilers game with the Leafs on Saturday." So this is in September, and as an audition for the Leaf job. And I thought it was my friend Alan Davis, and I unleashed a verbal barrage filled with four-lettered expletives about what a jerk he was for phoning me, trying to get me all jazzed up about this. And I went on and on and on. And finally, when I came up for air, Mr. Brampson said, "Joe, no, this isn't Alan Davis. This is Len Brampson, and we do want you to fly in to do this." So I was now stumbling and stammering and trying to backpedal. And
Right.
if I'd have had a knife, I'd have probably slit my wrists, but I didn't. And he said, "I'm going to phone you back in 20 minutes with the flight information." So I hung up and I just said, "You idiot, you have just destroyed the one great chance you had for a dream position and everything else." And instead of 20 minutes, 10 minutes later, Mr. Brampson phoned me back, and Len, who's passed now, but was a dear friend, he said, "Joe, that was the most interesting conversation I've ever had with a potential employee. I've never had someone tell me to stick my job up my yin yang before I even offered it. However, we've listened to your tape again. We don't need the audition. Would you fly in this weekend, sign the contract, and you're off?" And that's how I got the job. So
Wow.
I'm living proof. You can tell your future boss to go fly a kite, and you might still get the job, but I wouldn't suggest it strongly.
Wow.
That is such a good story.
No kidding.
Unreal. Yeah.
And the 93 run for the Leafs, Joe, like that's where I want to go next. Obviously, me and Alex weren't even born then because we're both 2000 babies. What do you remember most about, covering that run? I was talking to my dad, who's a diehard Leaf right now, and he's talking to me about the Doug Gilmour wrap around behind the net stuff. So share with the listeners what it was like to be around for the 93 run.
Well, the rest of the 80s, from 82 on until the 90s, we were decimated because of the owner, Harold Ballard.
Mm-hmm.
And no one in their right mind thought that they had a chance to win it all, because he would not spend the money or stop tinkering or just being Harold, I guess, for the lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
But when he passed, and Steve Stavro and others took over the team, and Cliff Fletcher was hired as the general manager and president, you knew that they were going to try. And that's all you can ever ask. They're going to try. They're not going to not spend money. They're not going to hoard money. They're not going to make stupid decisions just for spite. They are going to try to win. And they did that. The huge trade with Calgary was an integral part of it. The decision to bring Pat Burns in as coach from Montreal, another enormous decision. The talking with Burns about Felix Potvin. Was he going to be good enough to play goal, because they had Grant Fuhrer, who was on his way to the Hall of Fame and was one of the great playoff contributors and participants? Could we trade him and get something else up front? Would he be good enough? And all of these questions were answered. And sure enough, Felix goes to Buffalo. Dave Andreychuk arrives here and immediately becomes just a tremendous player working with Gilmour. And it was really exciting. But you didn't know whether it was enough.
Mm-hmm.
And when we started that playoff series with Detroit, we got our doors blown off in the first two games, and you just wondered, oh, here we go again.
Right.
But they came back and they showed the grit and determination. They tie the series up. They go into Detroit, and former Sudbury Wolf Mike Foligno scores an overtime goal to send it back to Toronto. And you think, oh, here we are at home. And of course, Steve Yzerman lights it up, and we get our doors blown off. Now we're going back for Game 7, and you wonder, oh boy. And it turns out that Nicky Borishevsky is there to tip in a Bob Rowe shot. And as soon as it went in, it was like a load lifted off everyone's shoulders. And that will be probably the same when the Leafs win a couple of rounds, now.
Right.
That load is still there, even though they won a round last year. That load is still there. And but after the Borishevsky goal, boy, it was onwards and upwards. However, it wasn't easy because they played 3 7-game series. They played 21 games in 42 nights. I mean, it was unbelievable what they had to do in order to get as far as they did. And it didn't quite get to the promised land, but it was damn close.
No kidding. And you know what, Joe, me being a diehard Leafs fan, I thought it was going to be the year last year, them finally winning a round. I give it to Alex because Alex is not a Leafs fan whatsoever, but he loves everybody.
He doesn't look very bright. He doesn't look very bright.
No.
No.
He's
Nice
a Northern
fellow,
Ontario
nice
boy.
fellow.
Yeah, Northern
nice
Ontario
fellow,
boy.
Oh, yeah.
Look at him
Not
go.
very bright.
I tried to get him a Nick Foligno jersey, Joe, to be for him to become a fan. He didn't like that. He's
all right.
actually close friends with Tyler Bertuzzi, who's a new addition to the Leafs. So maybe,
Yep. Well, maybe we'll slide him through. Yeah. The thing
go
is,
ahead,
though,
Joe.
guys, is that this league is so good.
Yes.
And everybody gets their shorts in a knot when the Leafs lose to Arizona or somebody or whatever. And you go, guys, these are the best players on the planet that are playing in this league. And any given night, things can happen.
So true.
And so what happens to the Leafs last year? Well, the goaltender for Florida plays maybe the 9 greatest games in consecutive games in the history of the league. Never mind just the playoffs. The league.
Right.
His save percentage, the number of shots, the results, the pressure going in, coming back to beat Boston down 3-1, beating the Leafs, then sweeping Carolina. And then, of course, what happened to them? Why didn't they win it all? They got there. So it's a really, really good league, and a lot of things have to fall into place before you actually get to celebrate. And of course, back in the old days, there were only 6 teams.
Right.
And you got your chance, likely more than any time at all. And Montreal built up their cups, and the Leafs are second, and that's the way it is since the 6-team league.
Right. So I want to ask you about this year a little bit more then, Joe. What are your thoughts on all the new guys that Brad Treliving brought in? And obviously I mentioned Tyler Bertuzzi, but they brought in some grit with Revo and all that. And we've seen him fight this past weekend, another Northern boy, Marcus Foligno, dropping the glove. So what are your thoughts on all the new guys that they brought in?
Well, I think, guys, at this point, this team is more of a playoff type roster than what we've had in past. Last year, Kyle Dubas attempted at the trade deadline or near the trade deadline with 6 new additions, 6 to make it more of a playoff type team. And he was very successful in that. Ryan O'Reilly, great playoff competitor. McCabe, all of the changes that he made were dictated that way. But there was no time to gel. There was no time. Then people got injured and then whatever. And I don't really think that team was ever as cohesive as it could be. Now, if you're going to start with a team that is more built like a playoff team, that is going to be more proactive in the physicality rather than reactive, I think that you're going to have a team that when it comes to the trade deadline, something can be tinkered with rather than having to change the whole, for all intents and purposes, other than the star players, you almost change the other 2 lines and defense. So I think that this team should be more playoff ready, if that's possible, when the playoffs come because of the changes that were made. Now, I think both Tyler Bertuzzi and Max Domi are struggling. I think they're finding that there's a lot of, there's some pressure here. It's early. It's only 3 games in, but you can see that they haven't quite found where to be, stick on the ice. Geez, Marner passes the puck to me and I'm not even ready for it. All of that sort of stuff. That's going to take some time, but they're going to be key contributors down the road, and they're going to be those kinds of players that you want in your lineup when the playoffs come.
For sure. So you're saying you're ready to get hurt again, is what I'm hearing, Joe.
Hey, I've been hurt for I don't know how many years, and if it takes another one, we'll take another one. Then we'll win it next year. But it's
I love it, Joe. I love it.
You can't be a fan of a team, and for all intents and purposes, that's what I am. I just have a great job, but I'm a fan of the team. And you can't be a fan of the team without feeling depressed and feeling hurt and being upset because you don't win every year. You just don't. And
Yep.
so, I'm a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan. Well, we don't win the national championship since 1988. I'm a Green Bay Packer owner. Well, we haven't won since Aaron Rodgers back a couple of years. And then it was, Brett Favre before that. But I became a fan because of Bart Starr and Vince Lombardi back in the 60s. So I've made sure that all of my sons, and I have 4 boys along with David, including David, that, you got to hook your horses to the wagon, and you use the whip on those horses when you can, but you got to give them some sugar every once in a while too, but you don't unhook. You never unhook the horses from the wagon. All right?
I love that.
Be there, live or die. So what is your favorite team?
Oh,
You're
here
not
we
gonna
go.
like it. You're not
No,
gonna
no,
like
no,
it,
no,
Joe.
no. Okay,
I'm
not a
Habs
Bruins fan.
I'm a Habs fan, Joe.
his dad's
No,
a
I'm a
Bruins
Habs
fan,
fan.
Joe.
No,
His dad's a Bruins
That's
fan.
perfect. No, that's perfect. That's perfect. He looks like a Habs fan. Really. No, I should have come to that conclusion earlier.
Oh, I love it. That's too good. Too good. Moving on, Joe. Obviously, we got to talk about it. Holy Mackinac, take us through that famous line and how you got to it. It's one of the best calls in sports, period. Every time we hear it, it's absolutely electric. So yeah, how did it come to you?
Well, I go back to my dad. My dad passed away when I was 14, and he was a huge hockey fan. He played goal. He played goal for the Sudbury Wolves, actually, and University of Western Mustangs. He was a general surgeon that worked for International Nickel. But Saturday nights was mandatory. We sat in the living room, and I sat on my dad's lap from the time that I was old enough to be able to stay up past 8:30 because hockey night in Canada didn't start till half an hour into the game. And he was a big Johnny Bauer fan, and so I was too. And Johnny would make a great save, and my dad would blurt out, "Holy Mackinac, what a great save by Johnny." And I never bothered to ask him where he got that. People used to say, "Holy cow." I think some of the baseball announcers, "Holy Toledo," would have said, a hit with or something. And it was just vernacular instead of swearing. It really was.
Yeah.
And I think Klinger in MASH was "Holy Toledo" because he was from Toledo, Ohio, or so. I don't know. But anyway, I never asked my dad, and I never used it when I was with the Wolves or in Nova Scotia. And about 6 years into doing the Leaf games, we were in the Chicago Stadium again, and Bill Waters was doing color with me. And Felix Potvin made a great save, and I blurted out, "Holy Mackinac, what a great save by Felix Potvin." And I looked over, and my broadcast partner, Mr. Waters, had fallen off his chair and was laughing. And I thought, well, if I got that kind of response from him, maybe I'll use it again. And then I did, and we started using it for, again, it's not like I went to the games. I got to get a Holy Mackinac in tonight. If it seemed to warrant it, it came out. And then it's become a bit of a staple. And we've sold T-shirts for leukemia research and done a bunch of stuff with it to make some good out of it. But it's there, and it's become I guess the bailiwick of what I do.
That's amazing. That's such a cool story. I love
I
it. I
I
love it.
think every kid, Joe, I go back to like mini sticks in my basement, being a diehard Leafs fan. My dad, my grandpa, you're playing mini sticks so simple downstairs, and you're the goalie, and you're stacking the pads, and you're robbing your dad, and your dad's giving you the Holy Mackinac back. So just a staple for
Now, let your
he can't
listeners
use it,
know.
Joe, because I know
No, it's
you're.
copywritten. So every time that you use it, you're supposed to send me $25.
Oh,
So
20.
right away, I think you're up around 2 or 3 grand, right? So you better start sending some dough this way. We won't worry about the Montreal Canadiens fan because the money or the check would bounce anyway, right? But anyways,
Chimino, do we have that money in the podcast account that we can
yeah,
send Joe?
I think we do. Yeah, I think we do.
Okay, we'll send Joe a
Smart
little.
man, Joel.
gonna
Smart man. I
have to
love
break that little piggy bank that's on your table back there.
it. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Joe, next question I got for you. You've obviously had a few great color commentators along your journey. Jim Ralph, Harry Neal throughout your career. How important is it to have a color commentator like them that you're obviously comfortable with?
Well, comfortable and let you do your work. I tell David when he's doing color that you got to let the play-by-play guy get the goal out, get the call out, then let the game breathe for a few seconds, and then come in because you want the crowd noise and everything else, especially when you're doing a game at home or whatever. But I've been really blessed with tremendous people to work with. I mean, Jimmy Ralph and I have worked for 27 years. We've gone through 5 marriages. 3 of them are mine. And and then Bill Waters, who worked with me for many, many years. Harry Neal. I worked with Scotty Bowman and Jim Poplinski and a bunch of other guys on TV. But Harry, I worked with the longest on television, and Jimmy, the longest I've worked on radio. And literally, you could read their mind. You knew where they wanted to go. And Ralphie and I, at times, if the game is not very good, turn it almost into a comedy hour at times. And Harry, he would say to me, "Okay, I need you to ask me about Roger Nielsen's tie," because he had some stupid line that he wanted to get in that had absolutely nothing to do with the hockey, but it had something to do with a tie or whatever. So of course he would never tell me what the line was because he wanted me to react. And so I would throw the volleyball up, there's Roger Nielsen. Looks like he's got a brand new spotted tie on, and here would come the line. So one night we were in New Jersey in the brand new Prudential Center, our first game in lovely downtown Newark, New Jersey. And Harry says, "Okay, you got to ask me about the rink." And I said, "Okay." So second stoppage of play or whatever, I said, "Harry, brand new Prudential Center here, right in downtown Newark, New Jersey. What do you think?" "Oh, it's unbelievable." He says, "It's gorgeous. The amenities for the fans are second to none." He says, "And the players, what a great treat. They can get dressed in their dressing room for practice and games. They can walk to the practice rink, which is attached to the building if there's a concert going on, so they never have to leave downtown Newark." And then he said, "And it's the only arena in the National Hockey League that has a shot clock both inside and outside the building." And I lost it. I started howling, and we couldn't get it back. And you could hear in the headphones the guys in the truck, they were down on their knees laughing. And it was one of the greatest lines I'd ever heard. And we were howling. At the end of the period, there's a knock on the door, and Lou Lamoriello is there. And Lou says, "May I speak with Mr. Neal, please?" I went, "Oh, I don't think Lou found the line to be as funny as we did." Turns out that they weren't doing the game on TV, and our broadcast was going through the building. So Lou heard the
Come
line,
on.
didn't think it was nearly as funny as we did. And anyway, so that was Harry got dressed down a little bit for the shot clock inside and outside the building.
Oh, that is all time. That is all time. Oh, I love it. That is so good, Joe. And obviously, you got to call, and you mentioned David a little bit here. I had the honor of being a color commentator. I'd made my debut with David with the Wolves for the home opener this year, and I had a blast with him. He is an absolute natural, and will not be surprised when he's calling Leafs games, and I'm calling that right now. But one, how was it? I know you guys called the game together, and how was that? And two, does he have clearance to use the phrase?
Clearance to use whatever the hell he wants. I've said to him that, try to find maybe a catchphrase of your own and don't invent it. Don't go around say, "Oh, here's a good one," or "Here's a good one." Here's a good. It'll just happen. Something will happen, and it's like Chris Cuthbert. Did you see that? I mean, that's that just it happens. So yeah, I was. He really had his hockey career go sideways because of the pandemic and because Mr. Papineau and Mr. Stillman wouldn't give him a chance to play, and run with the ball a little bit. But it just kind of came out of the blue that he got to do some games just for the midget team or whatever. And I thought, oh, that's neat. I said to him, well, maybe I'll drive up and listen to you. And he said, well, why don't you do color? I said, well, okay, I have no idea who these kids are. I'm not sure how color it's going to be, but anyway. And he was really good. I was very pleasantly surprised, but very pleasantly impressed. And so then last summer, and trust me, it was no influence for me because I still had a sour taste in my mouth about how he'd been treated as a player. So I certainly wasn't phoning the Sudbury Wolves to see if he could get a job. And in the middle of the summer, they asked if he would do the road games. And he looked at me, I looked at him, he said, "Don't look at me, I had nothing to do with this." And so he's done it on his own. And that's, I think I'm more proud of that than anything. And you're right, he's talented. He's working his craft. We have little conversations. Tell the score more, tell the time more, be a little more descriptive about where the puck is, and all of these little things that we chat about. But he's really done well. I'm very proud of him, and his brothers are very proud of him as well.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Yeah, no, he is phenomenal. And he did give us some ammo to ask you, Joe. So the first question he gave was Wendell Clark's mom asking if her boy's hand was okay after a fight.
Okay, this is a game in Chicago and at the old stadium. And for some reason, the fight breaks out. Bob McGill must have been in it. And everybody's in it except Wendell. For some reason, Wendell's not in it. He's standing off to the side. And Steve Smith, who was 6'5", and Wendell was 5'10" or 11 on his good days, I guess he said something, "Let's go." And you didn't have to ask Wendell twice. And you were in a fight sometimes before you even knew you were in the fight. And he just pummeled Steve Smith to the point that he had him down on the ice with one knee here and one knee on each shoulder and just tail driving him. And then he would stop and he'd look and wait for the referees to come over and break it up. But they were so busy over there, he just kept going. Well, he really just hammered the snot out of him. And after the game, we came down, and Les and Elma Clark, God bless their souls, we lost Elma this summer, driven in from Kelvington, Saskatchewan, which is probably about a 12-hour car ride. But that's like breaking sticks to anybody who lives out west. And they were waiting for Wendell to come up from the dressing room, which was below the ice level at the old stadium. You had to come up some stairs. And so he comes up, and they're talking whatever. And there's this shriek from down the hall, and this woman is coming up swearing at Wendell for beating up her son. It's Mrs. Smith. And Elma is a big old farm girl from Saskatchewan, and she just turned and stepped in front of Wendell and took one step towards Mrs. Smith and then turned around and said, "Wendell, did you hurt your Hanny tonight?" And Mrs. Smith just did a 180 and went right back the other way. I said, "Ooh, this would have been a hell of a fight, but it wouldn't have lasted very long, I'm afraid."
Wow. That's all time. All time. Wow. Crazy.
I wanted to ask about The start of the interview, Joe, you mentioned the Top Zini tournament, and you had a little bit of a side story, but you didn't
Oh,
get to it.
yeah.
I
Oh,
don't know if
yeah.
it came back to you or not, but
Yeah.
I feel
Oh,
like
yeah.
you
No,
wanted
I'm
to share
sorry.
that
Yeah.
one. No, it's all good.
Well, Eddie Jackman failed miserably teaching me how to play goal because I was on my way to the National Hockey League and he destroyed my career probably. Anyway, we had done our warm-ups and everything else, and Topper gets us all to sit in the stands, and a very special guest is introduced, Stan Mikita. I don't know what Stan was doing in Sudbury, but Stan Mikita came on the ice and was going to demonstrate his ability to shoot the puck. Now they had those big banana sticks that Northland Pro had made, that Bobby Hull had made famous, and they could really shoot the puck back then with those things. And so Topper says, "We need a goalie. Bowen, get in the net." What, you could be shitting me? I mean, I got felt on my arms. You know, how old was I? 12 or 13, 12 probably. Oh no. And I get in the net. Now you'll probably hear my knees chattering while I'm standing there. And Stan skates over to me, says, "Son, just stand on the goal line right in the net. I won't even come near you." I said, "Yes, sir, Mr. Nikita, that's me." So I backed right into the net. I'm standing right on the goal line, and he put 10 pucks up around the hash marks, and he went bing, 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 bing. He hit the goal post every damn time. And I had one eye open for the first shot, and then I just closed them completely. I didn't want to watch in case he missed one. But it was an amazing performance, and you just sat there and you went, okay, what we play is the sport of hockey. They play the game. I mean, that's talent, and
That is so cool.
yeah, it was a pretty cool moment for sure. And I lived to tell about it, which is even more impressive.
That is such a cool story. I love that. That is so cool. So cool. Okay. Real quick before we let you go, Joe, we're gonna go into our fast 5 years. So it's a segment we do at the end of every interview, 5 rapid fire questions. Whatever comes to the top of your head, let it rip, and I'll send it off to Tom here.
I hate the Montreal Canadiens and you. Oh, is that the answer to the first question? Or is that the answer to the 5th question?
Well, you know what? I can add in fast 6. Is that your most hated team? Montreal's got to be.
6th question in. The guy's a jerk. All right, move on. Here we are.
Who's your favorite Leaf of all time, Joe? That might be a tough one.
Bauer.
Johnny Bauer.
Never a question. And a better person than a hero.
Okay, there you go. Awesome. Most memorable goal you're at the rink for?
Probably the Nicky Borshevsky goal, because it was the cornerstone of the franchise wanting to win.
Yes. Okay. Your favorite nickname you have given a player?
Oh, I don't know as I've ever given a player a nickname. I honestly don't. I mean, we've used them,
right.
Willie Styles or, something like that. But that's a tough question. I don't think I've ever, given somebody a nickname or whatever. Yeah.
Willie Styles is a good one. Have you ever given?
It's not mine. It's not mine. That was, that somebody had said it before, or I'd read it in the newspaper, and that was part of it. Yeah.
What's your favorite Leafs jersey of all time?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. The one. Let's go back to the '67 one.
Okay.
I liked it. The bunting, the stripes, and it won.
Yeah,
there you go.
And it won. That's the key. Last one, Joe. We ask everybody your favorite Sudbury restaurant.
Oh boy! Oh, the Beef and Bird. Come on!
There you go.
Are you kidding me? Poor Kevin.
Leafs fan. Okay.
Come on! Beef and Bird. Absolutely. The Fazzini boys out there, even though they decorated rather poorly with all of that Boston stuff in there, but oh no, I think that I've hung my hat in there when I was working, and Jerry was alive, and he used to lock the door every once in a while on a Friday night and allow us to maybe just stay, maybe 10 or 15 minutes past closing. But it's a cornerstone, and it's a great spot in Sudbury.
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
Good.
Well, I think that's the first time the beef has gone that. So I love that. That's awesome. Joe, listen, it's been an absolute honor to have you on the podcast. When we started this thing, we wanted to get guests like you on, and we'd like to do the local. I know you get a lot of questions about the Leafs and stuff, but to get you on and talk about local, that Makita story is all time. So for you to give your time to us, we appreciate it so much. And hey, maybe we'll catch you up in the booth another game this year. So we appreciate it so much. Thanks for coming on.
No problem, guys. Good luck with it all, and keep slugging out there and enjoy a real good Wolves season this year. That looks like they got a pretty good team.
Yeah, absolutely.